They keep you informed on the Dodge County landscape. We keep the inside of your home looking great. Professional Floor Covering welcomes you to the next segment of Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
For great prices, gas, and master mechanics, talk to Jeremy at Jerry's Automotive in Beaver Dam. Schedule your appointment with one of their trusted mechanics now. Jerry's Automotive is a Carfax top-rated service center. Trust Jerry's Automotive for all your automotive needs this summer. Coolant services, Napa batteries, oil changes, and more. They keep your vehicle in great running condition. They also sell tires specializing in Michelin, BF Goodrich, and Uniroyal. Jerry's offers free tire rotations with tire purchases. Remember, when you purchase fuel at the one and only Spirit Pump, you support the community. 2 cents of every gallon will be donated to the Beaver Dam Scholarship Fund this month. The convenience store is also stuffed with everything you'll need. There's snacks, soda, flavored coffee, sweets, Chippy's popcorn, Leroy meats, frozen pizza, and beer. See the 5-star reviews on their website at jerry'sautomotivewi.com. Like them on Facebook or call 920-885-6411. Jerry's Automotive, 700 North Spring Street in Beaver Dam, across the street from the market.
Attention high school sports fans, are you an armchair official? You know, the parent or fan who constantly yells at the referees and loves to let everyone know just how bad you think they are. Well, if you think you could do better, then get in the game and prove it. It's time for you to suit up and make the calls where they actually count. Every sport in Wisconsin needs more officials. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Escape to paradise this summer at Chula Vista Resort in Wisconsin Dells. Spacious accommodations, perfect for families or romantic getaways. Voted top 10 best water parks in the U.S., championship golf, the longest zip line in the area, and the #1 steakhouse in Wisconsin. Book a Chula Vista Resort all-inclusive package now at 1-800-388-4782 or visit chulavistaresort.com. Your summer paradise awaits.
The pulse of the Milwaukee Bucks, straight from a Bucks legend.
Can't get it off. Marcus Johnson will, though. Can't leave him alone for a 12.
Tap into Here District with Marcus Johnson on Bucks Plus. Marcus and his son Chris offer a weekly beat on Bucks basketball. Get your questions answered and hear from the biggest names in basketball. Find Here District with Marcus Johnson at bucks.com/plus on the Bucks app or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, it's not Christmas, it's rummaging season. If you're hosting a rummage, garage, yard, or estate sale and want to get the word out, drop off a card with the date, time, and location in the mailbox in front of the WBEV studios at 100 Bill McCollum Way in Beaver Dam. Each Thursday morning at 8:35 a.m., we'll announce it on the WBEV Morning Show. Or look for the rummage sale post on WBEV Radio Facebook each week and leave your details in the comments.
Get ready for a night of engine revving excitement at the Campbellsport FFA Alumni's 18th Annual Tractor Pull happening June 7th at the Fond du Lac County Fairgrounds. Admission is free. The pull starts at 6 o'clock and proceeds support agricultural education and leadership training for Campbellsport emerging leaders. Concessions are available. Come be a part of the action. It's the Campbellsport FFA Alumni's 18th Annual Tractor Pull, Saturday, June 7th at the Fond du Lac County Fairgrounds, starting at 6.
These are the happenings in your community. Thank you for joining this edition of Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge, presented by Professional Floor Covering.
It is 95.3 WBEV. Apologies for the delay there. We were having some significant technical difficulties there as the phone did not want to cooperate there. So we are going to do a long segment here for Community Comment to bring it to the half hour, because as you just heard, we cleared quite a few ads there. So with a long break of Community Comment, we will get to Terry Bell in just a second. Wanted to remind you quickly here that Community Comment is brought to you by Professional Floor Covering. Randy and his team are here to help you design the perfect space. With over 1,000 samples of carpet, LVP, hardwood tile, area rugs, and window finishings, it's so much more than floors. It's a wide selection of kitchen and bathroom countertops, cabinets, tile, shower inserts, and more. See them now for their Pro Edge sharpening. It is never too late to go get that taken care of, whether it is your lawnmower, but they sharpen blades of all kinds. If it has an edge, they will sharpen it. Saw blades, drill bits, hole saws, knives, scissors, chipper blades, ag blades, and almost anything with an edge. Just call 920-887-8341. And now, after much anticipation, here is Terry Bell with today's community comment.
Much, Jake, for the kind introduction and all your efforts behind the scenes to get us on the air this morning. Welcome to Community Comment. I'm Terry Bell, and today we're going to be talking about Mayville with Mayville Mayor Rob Boelk. Mayville is located on the Rock River. It's an historic gateway for tourists to the Horicon Marsh. Mayville boasts an array of businesses from cigar factories and breweries to piano stores and creameries. Mayville boasts a combination of quality employers and a skilled workforce with highly regarded work and personal ethic. Mayville is a welcoming community, a community of safe neighborhoods and affordable housing with excellent learning and medical facilities close by. It's a community which describes itself as having endless recreational and sightseeing opportunities. And here to talk with us more about that is the mayor of Mayville, and we'll be talking about many more things too. Rob Boelk, thank you for being with us on Community Comment.
All right, well, thanks for having me, Terry.
Of course, Rob. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yeah, it's Boelk. The O is silent.
Boelk. Okay, very good. Glad we took care of that. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about what's going on in Mayville currently.
Well, we just had this tornado come through our town about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and so we're still dealing with some of the cleanup efforts and aftermath. The cemetery is partially owned by the city of Mayville. We had some major damage out there, so we're trying to clean that up and dealing with the insurance company, along with a bunch of residents. I got 7 or 8 families right now displaced that are living in temporary housing until their homes can be restored or rebuilt. So we're just dealing with that. And of course, there's a bunch of factories in town that were also damaged. And I've been dealing with some of them as far as what the city could do to help them out.
What sorts of things have these damaged property owners are dealing with right now?
Well, there's a lot of big old oak trees that we had, 3, 4, 5 feet in diameter that were uprooted, and of course that makes a mess on your front lawn or in your yard. So insurance won't cover a lot of that cost. So you really need a hi-ho to come in there to dig them up and put new soil down, and that's pretty much at the expense of the homeowner. So we do have a relief fund. It's called the Mayville Disaster Relief Fund. That people can make out checks to donate, and it goes to the city, so it's actually a 501(c) that's tax deducted. So we're trying to collect enough money so we can help these residents out and anything else that they have out-of-pocket expenses for.
Is there a target goal for that fund, or is it very open-ended?
No, it's open-ended. I think we raised about $17,000 as of to date. So we're hoping to get some, maybe some corporate donors. We already had a lot of companies donate, like Generac was very generous, donated a bunch of generators at the time of tornado, get things up and running. We've had MEC was very generous. Metalcraft was very generous. So, we have companies in the area that have been helping us out as much as they can with either, direct funding or with materials and supplies to help us out.
How are people holding up emotionally? We hear about a lot of when a tornado happens in a place, we hear a lot about how it has affected the physical aspects of a community. How are people dealing with this?
Yeah, there's me personally and my family. I know we had a bunch of storms come through last night. They're a little on edge, right?
Sure.
they're in the basement. Probably some people might think it's funny, but they're in the basement right away now because they're just terrified of what might come. So there are some psychological, emotional issues that are going on with some people. So that's always taken into account as well. And I think it's going to take time.
All right. What sorts of things are people saying to you as the community bounces back?
Well, they're happy that the cleanup effort went as quick as it did for the majority of it. A lot of people are concerned that they're not going to be able to rebuild. There's a bunch of older homes because we are an old community that they have structural damage, so they're waiting for the insurance company to have a structural engineer come and take a look. So he has to make the decision whether it's structurally sound or not, and if it's not, they're going to have to demo these old houses. We have a big old cheese factory in town right on Main Street that's probably 150 years old. They have potentially structural damage, so that's being evaluated. And then in the meantime, one of our factories, Gleason Reel, has been severely damaged, and they rented out some extra space at a nearby facility to start their operation halfway in order. I know the city of Mayville, I've offered them free land on the North Industrial Park along with some cost that we could pick up for a rebuild. They haven't got back to me yet, so they're going to evaluate what they're going to do going forward.
You mentioned the factories that were damaged by the tornado, and I was curious to know, what's being done for the people who own these factories, who work at these factories. I mean, are people who work at these facilities, are they losing income? Are they still working?
I know at Mayville Engineering Company, they're all back to work. They were up and operational within 3 to 4 days, which is an outstanding job on their part to get things up and running for their production. Gleason Reel, like I said, they had space available at a nearby facility, so I think some of them people have been transferred over there temporarily to get some operations back and running. And the canning company, I'm not 100% sure what's going on there yet. I know they had significant damage as well. And I know the PPAC is coming up here within the next few weeks. So, I think some employers have insurance that might cover some of the lost wages, but besides that, I'm not sure.
As the mayor of Mayville, what are the city's responsibilities going forward in what I imagine will be a months-long recovery process?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at home at the time the tornado hit, I was in my basement, and I didn't have hardly any damage at all, just some limbs here and there. But I knew something happened when my phone was going off the hook 10 minutes afterwards because obviously people have been reporting in. So, the first thing the city ended up doing is meeting at City Hall because we have a generator backup to get us up and running. And then we made a game plan right away. And I think our DPW department did an excellent job opening up the streets. That was the biggest thing that we did is get the snowplows back on and open up as much streets as we can for emergency service personnel. And Alliant did a great job. I can't say enough about Alliant shutting off the gas and the power in town to make sure everyone was safe, because that's typically the time when people are going to get in trouble is right after the tornado hits, because there's live power lines and backfeeding in the lines. So they did an outstanding job too. So, it's going to take some time. I would say about 95% of the cleanup has been completed by our DPW and Parks Department. We still have a little bit left to do. But a lot of it's going to come in the form of some heavy equipment. We have big trees still down in the river. We're going to have to figure some stuff out. We've been in contact with the DNR, what we can and cannot do in the river. So it's probably going to be realistically an all summer effort to get everything back 100% back normal.
I was just going to ask you, was there a time frame for getting things done? Does it sound like Mayville will be completely back to normal by, say, Labor Day?
That's the plan. I mean, it's like anything, right? You come up with a plan, you hope the plan sticks, but things change and there's different variables too. But the goal is to get everything done back by Labor Day, to get all these trees that are uprooted in our parks and private property owners, to get that back restored and get these trees out of the river. Some of our headstones were damaged in the cemetery, and that wasn't covered by insurance, so some of this funding will help alleviate some of that cost as well.
Yeah, that's a terribly important thing for the families of the people buried in that cemetery. Will the headstones be replaced completely, or will there be attempts to repair the headstones?
Yeah, if we can repair the headstones, we will. And if some of them might have to be completely replaced, we'll try to get enough money raised that we can do that as well, because some of these families are no longer in the area. Some of these headstones are from 1860s, 70s. So, but to me, as a mayor of the city and for our, people that lived here in the past, I think it's important to restore as much as we can in the cemetery, get it back to where it was.
I'm also curious to know the fate of these downed trees. What's going to be done with them once they're cleaned out?
We're going to have another. We do have a tree program in town that it's a 50-50 match. So typically it's around $350 for tree. So what happens is the city comes and they'll plant you a new tree and water it and get it established in the fall, and then ownership will be on the homeowner from there. And there's a 90% success rate that these trees will take root and continue on. So my thoughts were is that maybe we can do better than 50-50. Hopefully we get enough fundraising and efforts to actually have all these trees replanted in town, because it's forestry management, right? People don't really think cities as forestry management. We do have urban forestry management in town that these trees do provide significant value to the city as far as shade and energy cost and so on and so forth. So I think it's important to make sure we get these trees back planted and for future generations. It might not be in my generations, Terry, or yours, but somebody, 30, 40 years from now would appreciate it.
I'll bet. We heard a lot of stories about how neighbors came to each other's, help the day after, particularly in the days following the tornado. What was the spirit of the community in those hours and days right after the tornado?
Yeah, right after the tornado. I mean, even that night, I was trying to tell people to, people are in that evening with chainsaws cutting up wood and the whole 9 yards. Sometimes I think it was too quick for safety reasons. However, it was neighbor helping neighbor, going door to door, clean up this neighbor, go to the next neighbor, and just keep going down the road, which says a lot about the city of Mayville. Our residents are most of us are blue collar, hardworking men and women, and that, we did have this disaster, but to the spirit of being Mayville people, we're going to go forward and make sure everything is the way it needs to be done for everybody in town.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you think of any particular stories about people helping each other out in that time?
I can't think of just one thing. I mean, I was out helping cleaning up the Parks Department, some neighborhoods as well, and it just it's kind of like, it's hard to describe, because when you go through a disaster like that, some people are in shock, and I know there was people for a couple of days that were in shock. They just couldn't believe their property was leveled or severely damaged. So, but once you get over that initial shock, I think that's when people are like, okay, this is what we got to do, X, Y, and Z. Let's just get it done. And that's where I'm glad that I live in a community that our citizens are all helping one another, whether it's younger, older, middle. We're all there for each other.
Mm-hmm. Any word on any disaster funding from governments higher up?
Yeah, so we're probably not going to get any FEMA funding, because to get the FEMA funding from the federal government, you have to this governor has to call a state of emergency, and he didn't do that. And I don't think he has any intention to do that as of right now because of the dollar value isn't quite where it needs to be. And then the city has got to come up with some money from the state funding source for the disaster relief. It's like $4.75 a person, so it's 24 grand roughly the city needs to come up with. And I already budgeted 2 years back when I was the previous mayor, already budgeted $20,000 and specifically for emergency fund for disaster, just like we're describing today. So that would help, the taxpayer as well, because that funds are already set aside. So we're still waiting for the state. We had to have $11 million in losses, which I think just that one factor alone is well more, $11 million.
11 million?
Yeah.
For losses total throughout the city.
Right. I'd say my estimated value of the total loss in the city is probably somewhere between $50 and $70 million. And I think we've already submitted the city's out-of-pocket cost. That was closer to $400,000 roughly for just the city's portion.
Okay, $60 to $70 million in total losses.
60 to 70, I'd say, yeah.
Okay, we're talking to Mayville Mayor Rob Boelk about all kinds of things happening in Mayville. We're going to take a break here and be right back. You're listening to 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
And we are back on Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV. And just before we get back to the action here, I wanted to remind you that McKinstry's Home Furnishings is in downtown Beaver Dam on Front Street under the red awning, and they are celebrating their 167-year anniversary. They have picture framing services. McKinstry's Home Furnishings stocks a large selection of picture frame moldings and conservation mattings and glass. This ensures prompt and proper professional framing of your needlework, family photos, wedding pictures, oil paintings, wildlife prints, and award certificates. They've even framed a guitar. Best of all, you will be amazed at the low everyday prices. Let McKinstry's sales designers help you select the right frame and matting to enhance the beauty of your artwork as well as your home. Take your frameable pieces to McKinstry's Home Furnishings, and you will be very happy you did. And now with more community comment, here's Terry Bell.
Thank you, Jake. We are talking to Mayville Mayor Rob Boelk about the recent tornado that struck that community, one of the two probably hardest hit communities, not only in Dodge County, but all over Wisconsin that night of May 15th. We want to move ahead to other topics, and Mayor Boelk, I was curious to know more about a very important time in Mayville right now, and that's the formation of the next comprehensive plan. So what's going on with that?
Yeah, we're updating our 30-year comp plan. Of course, that's required by state statute for any kind of funding sources and stuff. So, and it's been outdated. So we're in the process of meeting monthly, update the plan, and we have a survey on our city website, mayvillecity.com. So people in the community can take the survey to see what's important for you, because these surveys are going to be evaluated, each of them on its own merit, because this is what's going to steer the city of Mayville in the next 20 to 30 years and where we're headed. So it's important that the residents are aware of this and that they participate in the survey. I just did mine last night and put my comments down. It's an anonymous survey. So it'd be good to get more input from our citizens.
It may be difficult to imagine planning 30 years ahead. What sorts of components are in the comprehensive plan? What sorts of things, are we able to plan for in 2025 that will still hold up, in 30 years?
I would say probably the biggest thing is going to need to be housing, right? What kind of housing are they looking at? Are they wanting duplexes, triplexes, side-by-sides, apartments, condos? That's all part of the survey. What would you see Mayville's housing needs in the future? Would it be elderly assisted living, more of that? And just it kind of goes in depth on what they're looking at for housing. So housing, last comprehensive plan, that we did was 20 years ago. We thought Mayville would be 9,000 or 10,000 people right now. Well, as you are aware, Dodge County is losing population every year. We go down somewhere between 0.5% to 1% on average. Some communities are a little bit, below or above that number. But I'm on the county board as well, and I've seen the numbers. So, Dodge County is not growing at a fast pace. We're actually decreasing our population. So that's important on the 30-year comp plan. Our parks department's important on the comp plan. What would you see or like to see in the city in our parks? There's some transportation issues on there as well, on our roads and streets, where they think we should be. So, and then of course there's a general questionnaire that, what would, besides what's on the survey, what else would you like to see done in the city of Mayville?
Does a declining population pose any particular challenges as opposed to a city or a county that's seeing population growth?
Well, I think the biggest thing is on population growth. It affects, it doesn't, the city level, it does affect a little bit for funding from the state level, but a lot of it's at the school district level, because every student, typically the school district gets 10 to 15,000 roughly per student. So you want to continue your population growth for schools to make sure your schools are solvent.
And the comprehensive plan is an important document because really it's something that local officials have to stick to. This isn't just some sort of idea, suggestions. In order for anybody to build or anything, zoning requirements are built into this. Confirm that for me, or if I'm wrong.
Yeah, your zoning and planning has input on the 3-year comp plan about where would you see your outlining districts. Do you want to keep them agricultural, or do you want to make that into residential, or you want to make that into manufacturing? So if you have it on the plan and the city strays away from the plan, it can always be challenged, of course, in court or at the state level. So it's important to kind of make sure you're sticking with the plan. Of course, sometimes plans change, right? But you got to make sure you're following the process.
I was curious about that. What happens if circumstances, 15, 20 years out from now really don't line up with these decisions that you're making in 2025? Can you pivot? Can you adapt?
Yes, you can. A plan isn't, necessarily 100% stone, but but the plan could be revised. You can revise the comp plan and start a new plan, or the city council is the ultimate authority of the city. They can make a resolution, straying from the plan at that time that, hey, I understand, let's say if you have a residential neighborhood and you want to make it into manufacturing, as long as you give public notice to everybody in that area, we're going to stray away from the 30-year comp plan and change this to, manufacturing from residential.
And you mentioned the online survey that people can fill out, and will that be a guide, or will the suggestions that people make, will the remarks people make, really mandate what happens in this plan, or will it just be input?
Well, surveys, a lot of it's input, right? But, me personally, I'm on the committee, and I like to know what residents are thinking, and the only way you find out what residents are thinking is by, surveys or actually knocking on people's doors and talking to the people that elected you in the position and see what their thoughts are. I try to get out and about and talk to people in town as much as I can, whether it be different events or at the local pub, right? So it's always good to get more input. My thought's been, since I've been elected years ago, is that, 2 heads are better than 1, and, 5,000 is better than 2.
And I think an important thing to point out is that the survey is anonymous, so Mayville residents should feel free to be as candid as they feel they need to be.
Right. I encourage, put down what you think should be done. One of my thoughts was that, years ago we used to have we have 2 dams in the city, and one used to produce power, and we don't do that anymore, right, for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because of maintenance issues or what, but, hydro power has come a long way over the last 20, 30 years. My thoughts were, is people probably don't realize this, but we pay a lot of money for our streetlights to be on at night. If we can offset our cost, which is taxpayer money, by putting in some, hydro power, maybe that's something we should look at and see if we're going to return our investment over the course of 5 years. I think it might be well worth the money to be spent to produce hydropower and to offset some of our costs.
If anyone listening in Mayville wants to fill out that survey, where should they go?
Yeah, MayvilleCity.com is a good place at the city website, and the survey is right there in the front.
Very good, and just click on that.
Yep.
Very good. We are talking with Mayville Mayor Rob Boelk about all things happening in Mayville. We're going to take a quick break here and be right back. You're listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
If you love brats and having a chance to win a lot of money, then don't miss any stops on the 2025 Brat Prize Season and 95K Sweepstakes, presented by Perdent Premium Meats. No food or drink purchase necessary to participate.
County landscape, we keep the inside of your home looking great. Professional Floor Covering welcomes you to the next segment of Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
And we are back with the last segment of Community Comment here on 95.3 WBEV. Here's Terry Bell.
Thank you, Jake. We're talking with Mayville Mayor Rob Boelk about all things happening in Mayville. And when it comes to local government, there may not be any bigger concern than the roads. That is a chief responsibility of the men and women who lead our municipalities. And Rob Boelk, I understand that there is plenty to discuss in Mayville about transportation.
Yeah, we're under a major overhaul of our road system this year. Typically, we do about $200,000 to $250,000 worth of repairs, and this year we're doing a little over $900,000 in repairs. So it's about 4 times, not quite 4 times as much. Getting a lot of complaints about all the roads we're doing in town. However, you can't have it both ways. We can't have bad roads and you're yelling about the roads because they're bad. Now I'm doing the roads brand new and we're complaining there's some inconvenience, right? So it'll be great when it's done and Northeast Asphalt got the contract this year, received the contract. And they have a time limit, right? One thing with our contracts with the city, we have a certain time limit they have to meet, otherwise they get penalized. So that's why they've been seeing a lot of road construction right now all over town, so they meet their deadlines and that we get this updated sooner than later so our residents can have decent roads and not a bunch of pothole-infested areas of town.
Anything happening besides repaving? Can people in Mayville and people who drive through Mayville expect things to be a little better in other regards after the work is done?
We do have a few parking lots that we're going to be redoing, city parking lots, so that'll be some improvement. I don't remember what we decided on as far as which parking lots are going to get redone. Next year, we have already planned for a couple major street projects on Muzzy and Allen and some Grove Street, so that'll be coming next year, and of course that's all part of the capital improvement plan. That's with the budget, and that's coming up. We're already in budget season. Believe it or not, Terry, it's first week of June, and we're in budget season already for next year.
Year flies by. Certainly does. So I know one thing that happens during road construction is that access to businesses can be quite compromised. In fact, it's a very difficult time for many businesses when the road construction, as badly as it needed, can be a temporary impediment. And some businesses go out of business completely. And I was wondering what's happening to help keep businesses' lights on that are affected by the construction.
Yeah, so our construction in town really isn't having a lot of impact on our industry or local businesses. It's mostly residential. We do have one road in the North Industrial Park that's been gravel for 20 some years, and that's all going to get redone. So we're extending our water service out to the end by Slag Road, and we're going to have curb and gutter and a new blacktop. So that we'll have a little bit of impedance with some factories on the north end of town, but not that much. And then of course Highway 28 is being redone between Mayville and the rest of this year by the state, and so there's truck roads that have to be rerouted. We're still have access to Mayville itself in downtown, but then I was just made aware that next year the bridge on North Main Street, the state's going to redo the bridge as well, so it's going to have some impact more next year than this year, I believe.
You mentioned the budgets is the work on the next budget is underway. Tell me about what are some of the priorities coming up in Mayville for the next budget cycle.
Well, yeah, I guess, start with we're not borrowing any money this next year because we already borrowed it this year for next year's capital improvement projects. However, our department heads, they're required to look in the future at what they're going to need in the next, probably 2 years or 3 years and put it on the CIP so we can kind of plan what we're going to need for money. And it varies on the department on what they need, what they're going to need, whether it's going to be new trucks, new equipment, whatever the case may be. And that includes our emergency services, the ambulance, fire truck, whatever. But the biggest thing that I have to deal with is on the budget is that me and the finance chair will meet with all the department heads to see what's needed, what's not needed, and cut things out of the budget. However, it's always a balance, right, between taxpayer money and what's actually needed or versus wants. And it's that way across all government. So basically evaluating your needs and your wants.
Is there any particular line item that you think will generate plenty of debates in the community, that tug of war between needs and wants?
Maybe another fire truck. Mm-hmm. We just spent $1.5 million on a new ladder truck. I know they want some more equipment. That's going to have to get discussed a little bit more. One thing about fire departments in the not just Mayville but the whole county is that we don't have a lot of volunteers anymore that volunteer to put out fires. So right now when we call in a fire call, we're calling for mutual aid between a couple of departments. So my wish is at some point in time I could get other leaders together to sit down and actually have an honest conversation about consolidating departments, whether it'd be Mayville with another municipality, and we have a lot of private fire departments up by us, or getting together with some private fire departments and see if we can work together or somehow come up with a plan and how to consolidate for future. I mean, ambulance service right now, I think, I'm not going to toot Mayville's own horn, but we got a pretty good ambulance service in our county, and I think a lot of them strive to be Mayville, and that comes at a cost, right? So some of these local municipalities around us, I think, need to evaluate their own needs versus wants and whether they should think it's a good idea to approach Mayville and see if we can help them out and come up with some kind of a joint agreement.
And we're seeing in other parts of Dodge County consolidation and, fire and rescue efforts becoming regional. It sounds like you think that could be feasible in the Mayville and surrounding area?
Yeah, the county the Dodge County Board did put some money aside for consolidating of emergency services. So there's money available. The state has also done the same thing because they see the need as well. And if, I don't have a crystal ball like anybody, but I think in the next 3 to 5 years, something's going to have to change. We just can't keep status quo like we have been for the last 40 years. I mean, one thing I've noticed, about being in government as long as I have over the last decade is that things can considerably change and is constantly evolving. And if you're not evolving with society, you're a dinosaur. So you need to keep progressing forward. Now, I understand residents don't really like change. I don't like change either, but sometimes it's a necessity to keep going in our society the way we need to go.
Budget cycles, usually votes are taken towards the end of the year, which may seem like a long way off on the one hand, but like we said, the last 6 months have flown right by. What happens in the months to come on this, and how can the public get involved?
Yeah, so what's going to happen is that the month of June, we do all of our department CIP, capital improvement plan stuff. And then in first part of July, the city treasurer's office will actually take the forms to send out to the departments on their budgets and get actual numbers put to their budgets. And then by the end of July, that's pretty much set in stone. And then first part of August, me and the finance chair will meet with all the departments, with the administrator, and go over them and see what we need to cut and what we're not going to cut. And then usually by the end of August, beginning of September, the general public will start getting those notices on our website that we're going to have finance committee meetings as a whole and talk about the budget. And that's when participation within residents can take place at City Hall on their public comments, or they can always email their alderman or the mayor's office and tell them their thoughts of what should take place on the budget.
Does that ever happen that the public comment period results in significant changes to the plan up to that point?
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes it does. I mean, sometimes someone will bring something forward that I might have just totally forgot about, or for whatever reason, and then I'll say, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We should probably take that into consideration." But honest with you, Terry, the municipal government level it's a complicated formula when we do budgets, because we have to meet our levy and spending restraints from the states, or we won't get our state aid. So that's always a delicate balance. And honestly, out of the budget, the whole budget stuff, I would say that probably 95% of the population really doesn't understand how the budget process works or how it goes, and the other 5% that do know how it goes, sometimes they don't comment at all. So it's kind of maybe it's not the right way to do it, but that's the process.
It is a bit of a conundrum. Rob Boelk is the mayor of Mayville, recovering from tornadoes and looking ahead to forming its 30-year comprehensive plan. Residents of Mayville can participate in that survey at mayvillecity.com. Rob Boelk, we want to thank you so much for spending the last hour with us.
Well, thank you, Terry, for the time it took you guys to get a hold of me and get this on the air. And I appreciate you and all your listeners and Beaver Dam and WBEV for all they do for all of us. I think this is a great opportunity for residents to tune in and make sure that they can get advised of what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you. You're listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
Find contest rules information for 95.3